Hello students, hope you are all fine. So we were discussing the third chapter, that is the periodic classification, and in that we were dealing with ionization enthalpy, isn't it? You know the definition for ionization enthalpy. What is it? That is the amount of energy required to release an electron from an isolated gaseous neutral atom, isn't it? And normally the ionization enthalpy is negative or exothermic reaction. Okay. So in order to remove an electron, the most loosely bounded electron from a gaseous neutral atom, we have to give energy. Sorry, it is an endothermic reaction. We have to give energy in order to remove an electron. Now, while we were discussing the ionization enthalpy, we were telling that you have to take two things into consideration, isn't it? One is the effective nuclear charge, and you know from going from left to right in a periodic table, the effective nuclear charge increases. And now what is the reason for that? Why? Because the size of the atom decreases. That is why the effective nuclear charge increases, thereby the ionization enthalpy or the ionization potential also increases, isn't it? Because as the size decreases, it is very difficult to take away an electron from a small atom where the electron is so much attached to the nucleus or attracted towards the nucleus. And also one more thing you have to consider while dealing with the IP is the shielding effect. Okay, shielding effect means what? Shielding effect means the outer electrons will shield, the inner electrons will shield the valence electrons, isn't it? So these two things you have to consider while taking the value or taking the consideration of this ionization enthalpy. Now from top to bottom in the periodic table, we can have the shielding effect, isn't it? Because the inner electron or the core electron is shielded by the valence electrons. Now and also the number of shells or the size of the shell increases, the IP decreases. So the removal of an electron will be easier. Now as in the case of the first group elements like lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, all has outer electrons 1 electron, and as you move from top to bottom in that group, the cesium is very easy to knock out an electron because of the shielding of the inner electrons, isn't it? And also the size of the atom increases, thereby the distance between the nucleus and the valence electron increases. So these all things just take into consideration, and then we will say the IP increases or decreases accordingly. Okay. Now in the IP or in the case of ionization enthalpy, some exceptions are also there. Now first today we will see an exception of in the case of beryllium and boron. You know, beryllium has got an atomic number of 5. Sorry, lithium, beryllium. Beryllium has an atomic number of 4 and boron has an atomic number of 5, isn't it? Because lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, like that. So now if you take ionization enthalpy, we say that is from left to right in a periodic table, the IP increases. But in this case, that is the case, then the boron should have a greater IP than beryllium. But in this case, when you consider beryllium and boron, the IP of beryllium is greater than the IP of the boron. According to us, a general rule, we say that the IP increases when going from left to right in a period. That's a general rule. But in the case, there are exceptions. That means the case of beryllium and boron, if you take these two as examples, it is found that the ionization enthalpy or the potential of beryllium will found to be more than that of the boron. So in this, like this, if questions comes, first what you have to do is you have to write the electronic configuration, that is the SPDF notation. Okay. Now here, what is the electronic configuration for 4? That is 1s2 and 2s2, isn't it? For beryllium, that is atomic number 4, even though the nuclear charge is increased in the case of boron, this will have a smaller ionization potential than beryllium. So why that so? So you have to first write the electronic configuration, and checking the electronic configuration you will be able to know why this happens. Okay, so beryllium has got an electronic configuration of 1s2, 2s2, and boron of 5 has got an electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2 and 2p1. See? Now, in this case, what is ionization potential? Ionization means leaving an electron or getting out of an electron and forming an ion. That is ionization potential. So, and see the quantum number, this is 2s. Here it is 2s and 2p. Now, when you compare the same quantum numbers, that is that n is equal to 2 level, the s electron will be more penetrating than the p electron, or which means that getting an electron from an s electron will be more difficult than getting out of a p electron from the same quantum number 2. That is, n is equal to 2. When n is equal to 2, the getting out of an electron from an s will be more difficult than getting out of an electron from a p. Why? Why? Because here s electron will be more closer to the nucleus than the p electron, isn't it? Because the shielding effect will be less for the p, or the p will be more away from the nucleus so that it can be easily knocked out. Okay, so that is the case. Even though boron has got a greater nuclear charge, that is 5, or a greater atomic number, this boron has got a low IP. So a little amount of energy is needed to get out of an electron than for boron because of this electronic configuration. So whenever like these questions asked, you just see the configuration or write the configuration in SPD notation, and then there you find some change or some meaningful logic in that question. Okay, so that is how you have to answer. Okay, so this is the answer why the boron has got a lower IP than beryllium, even though boron has got a high nuclear charge. Correct. Okay. Now one more example, the same way, one more example is there, like nitrogen and oxygen. Okay. Nitrogen and oxygen. So nitrogen is what? Nitrogen, the atomic number is 7, and oxygen, the atomic number is 6. Now the same way, write the configuration. What is oxygen? 1s2, 2s2 and 2p, 2,4, 2p2. Isn't it? 2p2. Now what about nitrogen? 1s2, 2s2 and 2p, 2,4, 3. See? So beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, sorry, nitrogen, oxygen is 8, isn't it? 7, 8. So 2, 4, 2p4. Okay, sorry. So the question is, so as a general rule we say that oxygen, the first IP of the oxygen will be higher than that of nitrogen. That is a general rule. But the question is, why the first IP of oxygen is lesser when compared to nitrogen? That's the question. Why the IP, first IP of oxygen is less than that of nitrogen, even though the oxygen has got a greater nuclear charge. The same logic we can apply. Now what is the logic here? You have to apply. Here, see, as for the same quantum number n is equal to 2, there are s and p, here also s and p. But what is the thing behind the p3 and p4? What is the logic behind there, or what is there any particular thing in p3 and p4? You got it? Because p3 means what? p3 is a half-filled stability. You know that. But due to the Hund's rule of maximum multiplicity, you know p3 is having an extra half-filled stability, whereas p4 is 1, 2, 3, then 4. So in this scenario or in this situation, the picking up of or knocking of an electron from a filled stable configuration is more difficult than in this case, because here there are 2 electrons, it can be knocked out with an energy lower than that here in the case of nitrogen. Because the reason or the value point is because the nitrogen is having a half-filled stable p orbital, it is very difficult to knock out an electron from a half-filled or stable configuration rather than an unstable configuration. So this is how you get for the reason or the logical reasoning behind these questions. So whenever such type of questions are asked, you just write the electronic configuration in the SPD notation and then try to find out what is there or what will be the reason or what will be the logic behind this, the greater in the IP or lesser in the IP, whatever the question is demanding you. Okay, so that is how you go for the answer. Correct. So that is all about the IP. So in IP or ionization potential, you have to mainly two things to remember. One is while writing the IP, you have to take the consideration of two things. One is the shielding effect and second is the effective nuclear charge. Now we will come into the second concept, that is electron gain enthalpy. It is a very important concept. What do you mean by electron gain enthalpy? What is enthalpy? You know, ionization enthalpy. Enthalpy means only heat change. The meaning is only heat change. So next is electron gain enthalpy. What is it? Electron gain enthalpy. Okay. This enthalpy and all you study in thermodynamics. I think in the 6th chapter or 5th chapter is thermodynamics. There you will come across with enthalpy and entropy, etc. Now enthalpy is nothing but the heat change or the energy required in terms of heat, isn't it? So that is enthalpy. Now this is designated in thermodynamics like this is electron gain enthalpy, that is H is the enthalpy word. Enthalpy word is delta, that is change in enthalpy, whatever the change in enthalpy, and electron gain you designate as Eg. Electron gain enthalpy. You can never say enthalpy directly, but always in thermodynamics we say change in enthalpy. You can only have a change, you cannot have a direct enthalpy calculation. You can only have a change in enthalpy calculation that you will study in thermodynamics. Just you now understand this is written as delta Heg, where Eg is called as electron gain and enthalpy is delta H, change in enthalpy. Okay. Now what is exactly this electron gain enthalpy? You know from the name itself it says that there is the energy change where an electron is gained, isn't it? That is electron gain enthalpy. Whenever an electron is gained, the enthalpy change is called, or the heat accompanied by that reaction when an electron is gained is called as electron gain enthalpy. Now exactly that is the definition. But the correct definition is the energy accompanied when an electron is added or gained to an isolated gaseous neutral atom. That is very important. It must be a gaseous atom, it must be a neutral atom, and it must be an isolated atom. So whatever energy is accompanied it is by or when an electron is gained in an isolated gaseous atom, that energy is called or named as electron gain enthalpy. For example, if I say very simply, X is a gaseous atom, a gaseous isolated neutral atom. This X, if it accepts one electron, it gains one electron, what it will form? It will form an X minus, isn't it? X minus ion, which is called as an anion, isn't it? So while electron gain enthalpy, an anion is formed. And how much energy is required for accompanying this reaction or accomplishing this reaction? That delta Eg and that delta H is called as electron gain enthalpy. Okay, but normally electron gain enthalpy is negative. That means it is exothermic. Whenever an electron is added to an isolated gaseous neutral atom, some amount of energy is released in normal cases. But you can also say that some reactions will be endothermic also in electron gain enthalpy. What is endothermic? Delta H is positive. Delta H positive means it is an endothermic reaction. And what is endothermic reaction? The energy should be given to that reaction in order to take place that reaction. So energy will be given to this reaction in order to accomplish this reaction or to reaction to form an X minus ion. So the electron gain enthalpy must be both positive or negative. You got it? It must be both positive or negative. Now we will see when the electron gain enthalpy will be positive or when it will be negative. Or in terms of the periodic table, when this electron gain enthalpy will be negative or more and more negative, or when it will be positive. Okay. Now you can see in the periodic table, this much you got it, right? Okay. Now you can see in the periodic table, you always talk about from top to bottom in a periodic table and left to right in a periodic table, isn't it? Okay. Now if you say from left to right in a PT, and we will say take the example, every time we take the example as the second row, that is lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen and fluorine. Just for an example, sake of an example, we will deal with the second group. Okay. And what will happen? The electron gain enthalpy means, see, the element is ready to take an electron or ready to accept an electron, then its electron gain enthalpy is high. And high in terms, we can say it as high negative value of enthalpy. Listen carefully. What I said is, see, whenever we talk about electron gain enthalpy, that is the enthalpy change accompanying when an electron is added to an atom, gaseous atom, correct? Now, if the acceptance for that element to accept an electron is high, then you will say that element will have a negative electron gain enthalpy. Or a high negative gain enthalpy means, listen carefully, a high electron gain enthalpy means that element will readily accept an electron to form an X minus anion. That's a simple answer for that. Okay, that is the simple meaning for that. That means whenever we say an element has got a high negative value of electron gain enthalpy, it means that that element readily accepts an electron to form an anion. Now tell me, when you go from left to right in a periodic table, if I say the electron gain enthalpy will become more and more negative when you go from left to right in a periodic table, when I say the electron gain enthalpy will become more and more negative means, what does that mean? It means from lithium to fluorine, the fluorine will have a high tendency to accept an electron to form the F minus ion. So is that logic correct? Yes. Why? Because fluorine is less for one electron to make an octet, isn't it? When you say fluorine is 7, the outer electronic configuration is 2 7. This is 2 6. This is 2 5, 2 4, 2 3, 2 2 and 2 1. If I say fluorine has got the large negative electron gain enthalpy, listen that negative value. What that implies? It implies fluorine is ready to accept an electron and form F minus ion more easily than oxygen, and oxygen more easily than nitrogen likewise. Why? Because this fluorine is only one electron less to form the octet, so it will accept one electron to form F minus in order to form a stable configuration or stable octet. So we will say, as a general rule, we will say, as we go from left to right in a periodic table, what will happen? As the atomic number increases from left to right, or the effective nuclear charge increases from left to right, or the atomic number increases from left to right, or the atomic size decreases from left to right, we can say that the electron gain enthalpy will have more and more negative value, and the highest negative electron gain enthalpy is for fluorine. That means fluorine has got the greatest tendency to accept an electron and form the F minus ion. This is with the periods. Got it? From left to right in a periodic table. Now, from top to bottom in a periodic table, what will be the effect? From top to bottom, for example, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium and cesium. Francium we don't take it because of its radioactivity. So what will happen from lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium? As the atomic size increases, what happens? The electron gain enthalpy will become less and less negative, which means that if you say, for example, if you say fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, etc., or nitrogen, phosphorus, arsenic, antimony, bismuth, while going from left top to bottom in a group, the electron gain enthalpy value will become less and less negative, which means that the first or the highest electron gain enthalpy will be, if you consider this fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, the fluorine will have a higher electron gain enthalpy than chlorine, than bromine, then like that. Okay, there are exceptions, I will tell you later, but as a general rule we say that as we go from left to right in a periodic table, the electron gain enthalpy becomes more and more negative. That means the tendency for accepting an electron will be more when you go from left to right in a periodic table, and the simple reason behind is that in order to form an octet, the fluorine only needs one electron, so it is very well capable of accepting that electron to form an F minus anion. Correct? Okay. Now, from top to bottom in a periodic table, what happens? The electron gain enthalpy becomes less negative. That means the first one will be more negative. From top to bottom, it will be less negative, like that. Okay. So you now know the concept behind that. What is electron gain enthalpy and how with the trend of electron enthalpy goes in a periodic table along the period as well as in a group. Okay. Now, here also there are exceptions. See, in everything, normal we say a general rule for a general periodic table or a general elements, but in all that, according to the electronic configurations or some other reasons, it can be any reason for that matter, we will say there are exceptions. In here, the exception is, see, in oxygen and fluorine group, that is the halogens and chalcogens group, fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium is radioactive. So when you consider these two groups, as a general rule or a general trend, which will be having a high negative electron gain enthalpy, as the general rule goes, definitely the oxygen will have a more negative electron gain enthalpy value than sulfur, isn't it? Likewise, fluorine will have a more electron gain enthalpy negative than chlorine, isn't it? But theory we says that like that, but practically speaking, in these two cases, for oxygen, sulfur and fluorine, chlorine, the second element like sulfur and chlorine is having more negative value for electron gain enthalpy than oxygen and fluorine. What is the reason? This is also a very good question. That is, you got the point. That means the question is, as a general rule we says that go from top to bottom in a PT, the electron gain enthalpy decreases. That is the value. The negative value goes on decreasing. But in this case, that is oxygen and sulfur, when we take oxygen and sulfur and fluorine and chlorine, as a general rule, it has to be oxygen and fluorine is having a more negative electron gain enthalpy value than sulfur and chlorine. Agree. But the exception is, this sulfur and chlorine is having more negative electron gain enthalpy than oxygen and fluorine. Or, let me put in one other way. That means, sulfur and chlorine has got a readily accept an electron to form an anion rather than oxygen and fluorine. That's the question. Now, what is the reason behind it? What will be the reason? See, it is because of the size. See, for everything, electronic configuration doesn't do the magic. In this case, it is the size that matters. Now, if you think about the size of oxygen and fluorine, as the effective nuclear charge increases from left to right in a PT, oxygen and fluorine is having very small size. When compared to oxygen, fluorine is having a very small size due to the increase in the effective nuclear charge. Now what happens when the size is very small? See, when the size is very small, listen, when you add an electron, what is electron gain enthalpy? Electron gain enthalpy means an electron is added to an atom, isn't it? So when an electron is added to an atom, what happens? Being the small size of this oxygen and fluorine, there is a greater repulsion of electrons among themselves. The coming electron as well as the outer electrons, because this oxygen and fluorine, the principal quantum number is 2. The outer electron has got a principal quantum number 2. Isn't it? N is equal to 2. That is 2s2, 2p6, 2s2, 2p7. So the size is very small, and since the principal quantum number N is equal to 2 is very close to the nucleus, adding of an electron to such a small size will have a greater repulsion when compared to S and Cl, that is sulfur and chlorine. That means the principal quantum number here is 3, isn't it? N is equal to 3. So that outer electron will be far away from the nucleus, thereby coming an electron to that atom or that element, the repulsion will be minimum or less when compared to this oxygen and fluorine. So that is the reason why sulfur and chlorine is having a more negative value of electron gain enthalpy than oxygen and fluorine. So all these cases the reason will be different, but just use the logic what is there. So that is the difference between the electron gain enthalpy of fluorine and chlorine. So if a question is asked, is fluorine is more electron negative gain enthalpy or chlorine? Your answer will be chlorine will have a more negative value for electron gain enthalpy than fluorine. And what is the logic behind that? What is the reason behind that? Because of the small size of the fluorine, and as the principal quantum number N is equal to 2 is very much closer to the nucleus, there is a greater electronic repulsion than the chlorine, where the principal quantum number N is equal to 3 is for the chlorine. Or the same question can be used for oxygen and sulfur as well. So you know how to get the answer. Okay, so that is all about the electron gain enthalpy or negative value. Now coming to the positive value. Positive value means what? Positive value means endothermic reactions are there. That means we have to give energy for a reaction to accomplish. In all these cases, when fluorine becomes a fluoride ion, isn't it? When fluorine becomes a fluoride ion means F plus an electron will give an F minus anion. It is a fluoride ion. The electron gain enthalpy delta H Eg is negative, more negative. Okay, now this is exothermic. Whenever H is negative, it is exothermic in chemistry. Okay, so we will call this as a negative value of electron gain enthalpy. And for fluorine, it is the most electron gain enthalpy, as we say as a general rule. But in some cases, the electron gain enthalpy will be positive. Positive means what? Here, energy is released. But in some cases, we have to give that energy, or we have to give the energy to accomplish the reaction. So, in which elements it is observed? The positive value of electron gain enthalpy is observed in noble gases. See, which are noble gases? That is helium, neon, argon, krypton and xenon. Why? Why in these cases you can have a positive value of electron gain enthalpy? Why? Because all these have a stable electronic configuration, isn't it? An octet. Now in a stable octet, if you want to again gain an electron or give an electron to that stable, the stability loses. So a very high amount of energy is given for such a stable configuration in order to accept an electron. So here in the noble gas elements, what will happen? In the noble gas elements, you will have a positive electron gain enthalpy. Okay, so as a general rule you can say, from going from left to right in a periodic table, as the atomic size decreases, the electron gain enthalpy value, the negative electron, you know what is negative, right? Okay, so the negative value of electron gain enthalpy increases, whereas from top to bottom in a PT, the negative value will be decreasing. And where will you come across with the positive value of electron gain enthalpy? That is, you can see in the noble gas element, because it is very difficult to get an electron to a stable configuration, because all these having an octet configuration is well stable configuration. So in a stable configuration, if you add an electron, it will be unstable. So in that case, you have to give energy, that is, it will have a positive electron gain enthalpy. Okay. Now hope you understood the electron gain enthalpy. Correct. Now we will have the third thing. First one is atomic radius, second is ionization potential, third is electron gain enthalpy, and the last is electronegativity. Okay, today we will see what is electronegativity. Okay. I think you have know the definition of electronegativity, isn't it? Electronegativity means, what is electronegativity? Electronegativity means the tendency of an element. Okay, electronegativity means the tendency of an element to attract a shared pair of electrons. That is the difference. Shared means, see, I will give an example. Okay, this is also very important. Electronegativity. Okay, electronegativity means it is the tendency of an element to attract the shared pair of electron towards itself. That's the definition of electronegativity. For example, we can see this in the case of even in ionic compounds as well as in covalent compounds. Okay. For example, if I say HCl, just an example to take you. HCl, you know, if I say chlorine is more electronegative than hydrogen, it's like that. Okay, we'll come to that. If I say chlorine is more electronegative than hydrogen, which means that chlorine has a, see, what is this bond? This bond means 2 electrons, isn't it? 2 electrons, correct? Now these 2 electrons is there to make a bond. So between hydrogen and chlorine, there is a bond. That is, hydrogen will share the 1 electron and chlorine will share the electron to make a covalent bond, right? Now, electronegativity means this chlorine has a tendency to attract this 2 electron towards itself, both electrons. See, that's why I said shared pair of electrons, not 1 electron, but both the electrons, the shared electrons, it will pull to its side. That's it. Okay, so it will pull it to that side. It's a tendency to pull the electrons towards itself. That is called as electronegativity. Okay. Now, electronegativity is not a measurable quantity, as you know. You cannot measure the electronegativity. But electronegativity, there are so many scales you can have the electronegativities. You can know the electronegativity. What is the electronegativity of fluorine or chlorine? There are so many scales are put forward by so many scientists, like Pauling. Linus Pauling was one of the scientists who get an idea of electronegativity. Then Millikan scale was there. Then Aldred scale was there. So many scales were put forward to have a knowledge about the electronegativity. And the most famous and the useful or widely used scale was the Pauling scale. Okay, to measure the electron, it is not a measurable quantity, but scientists make it measure. It is not 100% correct, but still scientists make it experimentally to measure the electronegativity, and the widest applied scale was the Pauling scale. Pauling scale in 1922, Linus Pauling, the scientist called Linus Pauling, arbitrarily chosen the electronegativity of fluorine as 4. See, he said that arbitrarily he standardized the value of fluorine, because fluorine is the most electronegative element in the whole periodic table. So So what happens? He said that, Pauling said that fluorine, he arbitrarily assigned the value of fluorine as 4. Okay, it is the most electronegative value. So electronegativity is nothing but, it is not a constant, you know. It is not a constant. Why? Because it depends upon which atom it is bound to. Isn't it? If it is bound to HF, see, let me tell you, if it is bound, H is bound to F, this is more electronegative, isn't it? So it cannot be a constant. It varies as whom it is attached or which element it is attached. So it depends upon that. But still, so many scales came, but Linus Pauling in 1922, he arbitrarily said that the value, the electronegative value of fluorine is assigned to be 4. Okay, now you can define electronegativity. Once again I will tell you, the tendency of an element to attract the shared pair of electron towards itself is what is called as electronegativity. Okay, it is not a measurable quantity, but there are scales which you can say, or we can say that the electronegativity value of fluorine is 4, which was proposed by Linus Pauling. Okay, I will tell you a small detailed discussion on this, like lithium, again you are taking the second variant, lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen and fluorine. Okay, in the case Linus Pauling scale, what you will observe is, he arbitrarily chosen what? The value of fluorine, electronegativity value as 4. Okay, now it is very easy to design the values. Just you see, 0.5 you minus it, it will be, lithium is 1. Okay, so just 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5 and 4. It is very easy to remember. These are the electronegativity values for the second group, period, that is lithium to fluorine. See, it's very easy. Just remember like this. Fluorine you have to know, that is arbitrarily it is designed as 4, and lithium being the first element from that second group, second period, it is first. Then you put 0.5, 0.5, you will get that. It's very easy. Just remember at least one group. Okay, second group. Third group also the same thing. It is, this is 0.9. Okay, now 3 is added in the second group, third group. That is 1.2, then 1.5, 3, 1.8, then 3 is 2.3, 1, then 2.5, etc. like that. Okay, the last one is 0.5. So just go through it. Okay, at least you have to study this. For the entrance exam and all, these values comes and just tell the difference and the value of electronegativity they will ask. So just study, this is very easy, 1 to 4, 0.5 difference. Now we will see how the trend goes. So the electronegativity value goes along the period as well as in the group. Okay. We say that as a general rule, when going, the electronegativity value has a very good comparison with, or very good agreement with the atomic radius. You know, atomic radius decreases, or atomic size decreases from left to right in a periodic table. Why? Because the reason is effective nuclear charge increases, isn't it? So that's for the same reason, the electronegativity also increases from left to right in a periodic table. So what is the trend? Electronegativity, electron gain enthalpy is also same, ionization enthalpy is also same. So electronegativity increases from left to right in a periodic table, and it decreases from top to bottom in a periodic table. So electronegativity decreases means what? The ionic radius or atomic radius also decreases. Now why atomic radius decreases? The effective nuclear charge decreases. Okay, so that is the concept behind the electronegativity. Okay, now I can say, now again one more thing I can say is this electronegativity, the electronegativity is directly proportional to the metallic character. See how you will go for it. Electronegativity is directly proportional to the metallic character, which means what? From left to right in a periodic table, the electronegativity increases. That means the metallic character, non-metallic character. directly proportional to non-metallic character. That means from left to right in a periodic table, the non-metallic character increases, isn't it? Now, electronegativity is inversely proportional to the metallic character. That means when metallic character increases, electronegativity decreases. That means from top to bottom in a periodic table, top to bottom means what? From top to bottom, metallic character increases. Now what happens to electronegativity? Electronegativity decreases. That is why it is inversely proportional. If metallic character increases, electronegativity decreases. Or electronegativity is directly proportional to the non-metallic character. Okay. So now you have an idea of what is electronegativity. It is very easy. Electronegativity. Okay. So just go through the book. You will know what about the electronegativity and various electronegativity values of this. Okay. So what you have studied today, that only two things, ionization enthalpy we have studied earlier. Today we have studied the electron gain enthalpy as well as electronegativity. Okay. So just go through the session, read very thoroughly. There are so many exceptions can come. Okay. Now what will you have to know the logic behind that. So next class we will see the chemical periodic trends. Okay. So till then, thank you.